Well, John, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is your own case, because people know that you're a whistleblower, but people may not know that there's been a kind of bipartisan refusal to pardon you for whistleblowing. And I mean, it's disgusting. You blew the whistle on the CIA's torture program. Your punishment for that, your prize for being honest and exposing something like that, is being thrown into jail, thrown into prison, losing your pension.
Yeah, that's the big part.
Yeah, and I mean, well, I assume, as someone who hasn't been subjected to either of those horrors, I assume they must both be extremely traumatic and traumatizing. And the idea that the only person to pay a price is the person not who engaged in the torture, but blew the whistle on it. Can you shed a little bit of light onto how that happened? Then I want to ask you about the pardon process, because you actually wrote an article on the defunct pardon process, in which you call for change and you explain what needs to happen. So can you unpack all of that? I threw a lot at you. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So I gave a nationally televised interview to ABC News in December of 2007, in which I said that the CIA was torturing its prisoners, that torture was official U.S. government policy, and that the policy had been personally approved by the president. This is when it goes into the twilight zone. The very next day, the CIA filed what's called a crimes report against me with the FBI, saying that I had revealed classified information, top secret information, in this interview. The FBI investigated me for a year, from December of 2007 to December of 2008. And they finally sent my attorneys what's called a declination letter, declining to prosecute me. They said that it was illegal to classify a criminal act. Torture was a criminal act, and so I had not committed a crime by revealing it. Great. I'm home free. 3 weeks later, Barack Obama becomes president, and he names John Brennan as the Deputy National Security Advisor for Counterterrorism. John and I always hated each other. And one of the dirty little secrets was that John Brennan was one of the fathers of the CIA's torture program. He pretended to be, a progressive Democrat. He never was. He was a pro-torture independent. So I had no idea that as soon as he was given this position of Deputy National Security Advisor, he asked the Justice Department to secretly reopen the case against me. In discovery later on, we found 3 memos. There was a memo from Brennan to Eric Holder, the Attorney General, saying, charge him with espionage. And Holder wrote back and said, my people don't think he committed espionage. And then Brennan wrote back and said, charge him anyway and make him defend himself. And so they charged me with 3 counts of espionage. Mind you, espionage can carry the death penalty. Right. And then when I went bankrupt, they dropped the charges. So I ended up taking a plea to a lesser charge, but I was looking at my phone a minute ago so I could pull this up. I received this email anonymously a month ago. And it says, Dear John, it's nice to finally write to you. I've been watching your YouTube videos and I love all the content, and I've been wanting to reach out to you for many years. I'm one of the FBI agents who wants to personally apologize to you for the disgraceful way that the FBI and our government treated you. I worked with both headquarters and the Washington field office team on your case, and I know many of the personnel that you're familiar with. That case was directed and driven by senior-most officials. Many mid-level and street personnel were against it, but nevertheless, we just followed orders. Anyway, I've always felt bad about what we did to you and for the way you were treated, and I wanted to personally apologize. Sincerely, Joe.
Wow.
That's the 3rd one of those I've gotten. The 3rd one. Wow. So, when you embarrass the CIA and you air the dirty laundry, there's going to be a very heavy price to pay. It cost me literally everything. My marriage, my career, my freedom, my children. It cost everything, which is the plan.
Right.
One of my attorneys said to me, well, in the midst of all this, they said, this case isn't just about John Kiriakou. This case is about frightening anybody else in the intelligence community who might be thinking about coming forward to report on criminal activity inside the organization. And that's true. Ed Snowden said that Tom Drake and I inspired him to go public with his revelations, and that meant the world to me. And knowing that there are other whistleblowers out there who who, if they don't go to the media, they go to the oversight committees, they go to an attorney or whatever. That makes it all worthwhile. Now, the pardon process. I applied for a pardon with Barack Obama. I was ignored. I knew I would be. Then I applied for a pardon from Donald Trump in Trump's first term, and I was close. And it made the papers a couple times. Once because Rudy Giuliani tried to shake me down for $2 million, and I ratted him out to the New York Times, and it made the front page.
I don't think I know this story.
Oh, this was a big one. So I have a friend who is close to Giuliani, and people kept saying, oh, you're close, but if Giuliani gives you the thumbs up, Trump's going to give it to you. I said, okay, how do I get to Giuliani? Well, I know this guy, and he works for Giuliani. So I called him, and he said, okay, let's meet up at the Trump Hotel. You and your lawyer, Giuliani and me. I said, great. So we go to the Trump Hotel. Giuliani's there. And we're sitting there. And Giuliani says, so, the Mets are looking good this year. And I'm like, yeah, great. Are you a football fan? I said, yeah, I'm a Steelers fan. I understand you're a Giants fan. Yeah, I love the Giants. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Finally, I said, so Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you taking the time to see me, but I wanted to talk about this pardon. And he says like this, anybody know where the pisser is? And he gets up and he walks away. I said to the guy, what just happened? And he said, you never talked to Rudy about a pardon. You talked to me about a pardon, and I talked to Rudy. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like, these guys watch too many episodes of The Sopranos. So he says, Rudy's going to want $2 million. And I laughed. And I said, look, I don't have $2 million. I'll never have $2 million. But why would I spend $2 million to recover a $700,000 pension? That doesn't make any sense. I said, look, I don't want to waste your time. I appreciate you seeing me. And I got up, my lawyer, and we walked away. So that night, a friend of mine had a book launch party, and I went to the party, and there was another whistleblower there that I'm friendly with. And he said to me innocently, he said, so how was your day? I said, oh, how was my day? Listen to this. I said, Rudy Giuliani tried to shake me down for $2 million. And I told him, and he said, did you call the FBI? And I said, I don't talk to those rats at the FBI. I'm not a snitch, right? I didn't call the FBI. A couple of days later, I happened to be standing in my attorney's office. We were chatting, and my phone rang, and it was Mike Schmidt from the New York Times. And he said that a little birdie had told him that Rudy Giuliani tried to shake me down for $2 million. Was that true? So I said, hold on a second. I said to my lawyer, should I talk to the New York Times? He said, yeah, tell him the truth. So I said, yeah, I'll talk to you. He said, will you go on the record? I said, sure, use my name. I told him the whole story. And he said, actually, you're the fourth person that he approached and tried to take $2 million from for a pardon. And it's because he was getting a divorce. He was a member of 16 country clubs. He spent $10,000 a month on cigars, and he needed this money to continue, the lifestyle to which he had grown accustomed.
No wonder he has that terrible hair dye. He couldn't afford a good hairdresser.
No, he can't afford
down his face. Yeah,
exactly. He does, just for men or whatever the spray is. So he denied and denied and denied. He said that he had never met me, that he hadn't been in Washington that day. So I sent the New York Times a picture of the four of us together that we took in the lobby. And they wrote, the New York Times has seen documentary evidence that the meeting took place. When Noelle, I forget her last name, his assistant, went public about her sexual harassment case, she said that he told her the day of the New York Times article that son of a bitch CIA guy ratted me out to the Times. And I said, yep, I did. So a long way of saying Giuliani didn't help me, but I got that close because Tucker Carlson helped me.
Right.
I had been on Tucker's show a dozen times. He loves when I criticize the agency. We became friends, and he went to Trump for me, and he said he's going to do it. Then on the last day of the Trump presidency, Tucker called me and said that Mitch McConnell had called him and killed it, because Mitch McConnell said that if Trump pardoned, and this was the original idea, Trump was going to pardon Julian Assange, Ed Snowden, and me. And McConnell didn't know me, but he said if Trump pardoned Assange and Snowden, that he couldn't control the Republican caucus in the Senate and that they would probably vote to convict him on the impeachment charges. So he dropped our pardons. Then I go to Biden, and I'm friendly with a Greek Orthodox priest who's very, very close to Joe Biden. He said, I can help you. So I'm getting, this guy to write a letter and that guy to write a letter and Senator so-and-so and Congressman, what's his name? And I got Annette Bening and I got Susan Sarandon and Mike Farrell, and I got a whole Hollywood contingent. And then he passed me over. And I said to the priest, because the priest was like, nobody's as close to him as I am. I'm Hunter's godfather, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, if I had been a crackhead or a Chinese spy or a judge that sold children into bondage, maybe I would have gotten. So fuck Joe Biden, excuse my language.
And one of those kids killed himself, by the way. One of those kids killed himself. Cash for Kids.
You are exactly correct. He killed himself. He was like 16 years old.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying with Trump again. And without even trying, Alan Dershowitz called me and said, hey, are you gonna apply for a pardon? I said, yeah, I'd like to. I said, I'm kind of disillusioned now. And he said, no, I'll write a letter and then we can circulate it and maybe get some other people to sign. So I got Alan Dershowitz, I got Tucker Carlson, I got Judge Napolitano, and two high-ranking friends of Trump that nobody's ever heard of in this venue. And so we're going to go again, and I'm going to try my best. We'll see what happens. But, I like to think that I'm going to get a fair shake from the Republicans on this, because it was Barack Obama and John Brennan and Eric Holder that put me in prison and covered up war crimes and crimes against humanity. It was not Donald Trump. There are a lot of things we can criticize Donald Trump over.
Sure.
But this is not one of them.